Hi, I'm Craig from Orchan Consulting. I'm here today at the Taylor's University Open Day, where I've been invited to be a guest panelist to talk about the future of the communications industry. We're going to take a look around, see what the campus has to offer, check out what I have to say and what some of my industry colleagues have to say, and see what happens. I do not want to think back to when I was your age, okay, that was last millennia. But there is nothing worse than being 18 to 20 and being told that you have to have your whole life sorted out and know what you want in the future. That's the toughest thing that you've got. So what you do is you use your education as the key to the door, but it's your attitude that gets you through that door. So I'm going to flip your question around. It's not what the skills are lacking, it's what the skills that are most important. I can train you to write. I can train you to deal with people. I can't train you to want to do that. So you have to walk through the door with a positive attitude. You have to come into it saying, this is where I want to be. And you also have to come into it with, this is where I want to be, but maybe tomorrow I might want to move aside a little bit. You know, you don't always have to be so fixated. Within the broader communications industry, you've got a wide range of possible vocations, possible opportunities, and career paths that are pretty fantastic. So if you start in one and you move through, my business partner moved through about 3 or 4 before he finally settled fully in PR and was comfortable with it. This happens, myself the same. So that's, my thoughts on that.
Thank you.
If I may say something, I completely agree with you because I started looking for, I graduated when I was 21, which was 8 years ago. I'm not that young. I look young, but I'm not. So I dabbled with different fields. I started out with publishing. I was with Blue Ink Media for about 2 years, and then I jumped into marketing for an F&B company. Then I went to social media. So I dabbled with it. And he's completely right. You have to really go for something that you want to do, something that drives you.
But to be fair, dabbling is good.
Exactly.
Especially when you're doing an internship, when you're studying, or when you're just fresh out having graduated. Try a couple of different elements of the industry and see where you fit. Eventually, you will find your niche, and you'll start to enjoy it.
I agree. And that's how I fell in love with advertising. I tried out publishing, I've tried out marketing, I tried out a little bit of PR, and I realized that advertising is where I'm at. No offense,
You got a
I
job?
love it.
I don't mind.
It's really difficult, but for me it's like, I like the challenge.
I don't want to do advertising.
No.
It's I feel,
I love the change though. I mean, advertising is ever changing. It's always on the ball. Nothing is routine, and for me that's the appeal because my nightmare is routine.
Yes.
Okay, let me just give you an overview. Okay, I'm a broadcast journalist by profession. I worked at TV3 for about 10 years. Rubin is my TV3 buddy. We worked at TV3 together. It was so much fun. When we left, we stayed in touch with a lot of the editors. One of the main problems is you need to have the right attitude. Broadcasting is not easy. I'm not gonna lie, right? If you're gonna come into my class, the first thing I ask the students is, why are you in broadcasting? If your answer is, I want to be glamorous, nope, this is not for you, that's the door, leave. Because you have to understand, when you do broadcasting, or you do broadcast journalism, or journalism, for that matter, journalism is a way of life. It's very difficult to separate your life and journalism. It becomes a way of life in some sense of it, all right? But you must have the right attitude in order for you to be able to do this job, okay? There are 2 kinds of people that actually do journalism. There are the reporters and there are the journalists. The reporters go out, come back, report. The journalists go out, do research, analyze, and come back and write the stories. Who do you think the editors are going to prefer? Who? The journalist, of course, alright? If you send 5 people out for a story, how many people do you think is going to come back with the right story? If you're lucky, 1. Why do you think the editors are pulling out their hairs right now and knocking their heads against the wall? Because students now don't write. My idea has always been you need to read to write. If you don't read enough, you cannot analyze anything. So that's one. It's a lot of hard work. And it's also, you need to have the right attitude and you need to be passionate about what you do. Because if you're not, it will show through the work that you do. It will show through the writing that you do.
I mean, I'm probably not going to give you the answer you want to hear. It's not a 9-to-5 job. If you want a 9-to-5 job, go work in a shop. It's not ever going to be like that. You are going to have assignments. You are going to have deadlines. In our business, we work on a system that I don't care what time you start or what time you finish the work that you have to be done, that has to be done for the day. If you need to take it home, take it home. You know, all of us learn to find our own work-life balance. There are people who want 9 to 5 and want to be able to go home to family, friends, whatever. That's great. There are other people like myself who are more towards, I more enjoy my work. You know, I go home, I spend time with my partner, I'm happy. But at the end of the day, I work until what needs to be done. I think one of the biggest misconceptions, to be fair, is that, you know, right when you start, it is going to be relatively within a time frame. It isn't. You have to expect. But then again, you tell me what industry, what professional industry out there does not ask the same. You know, I met a few years ago, I was in Jakarta with one of my staff who was from Indonesia, and we met up with one of her friends, and she was first year out of law school. She was working until midnight every day. It was expected. We've all gone through that at some stage because that's how we've had to prove ourselves. And unfortunately for every generation, it's going to be there. As technology changes, we may be able to find ways to balance ourselves much better, but it's never going to be fixated.
In any industry, you have to start from an entry level and work your way up. There's no such thing as a big paycheck on your first day, depending on your industry. Complete honesty, when I first started, I earned very little. But I'm probably earning about 150% more now, and I've only been in advertising for 4 years, and I'm an account manager. I started as an exec. So as long as you put in the work, as with any other industry, you will grow not just salary-wise, but also your position and also your knowledge and your ability and your skills. So that, I mean, like I mentioned, if you're gonna go into it expecting a big paycheck with any industry, then I think you're severely mistaken now. That's one thing that a lot of people that are slightly younger than me face when they start off at the workforce, and also the conception that the media industry is glitz and glamour. Because I went through the same notions, so I completely understand how it is to be on your side, and how when you're applying for that job, you're like, for me it was Blue Ink. I was like, oh my god, I got Blue Ink, you know, it's the biggest publishing house, they have fashion magazines everywhere, and I was expecting the Devil Wears Prada sort of thing. severely mistaken, by the way. Severely mistaken. It was a lot of hard work. We did have to do a lot of events. I handled Her World. I also helped out with Glam, Cosmopolitan, Clio, 17, Fun, all those fun titles. Yeah, not so fun behind the scenes. There's a lot of work that goes into putting out fun material. I think for me the nightmare was always having to go for events, and we did everything end to end, including the setup and everything. We were a team of all females. There were no males helping us out. We did everything, carrying all the heavy items, packing all the goodie bags, ensuring all the tables were all set up properly, and running around in our 5-inch heels. So that hashtag Women's Day, you know, we got it. You know, we did everything in our 5-inch heels, and our hair and makeup done. And that was for me, like, that was when I really realized, you know, it's really not all good at saying glamour. There's a lot of work that is put into I think even on the broadcasting side, there's a lot of work that gets put into the background, and it seems like it's easy because you're only seeing the end. You're only seeing the end product. You're not seeing what happens behind the scenes. So, yeah, but in terms of salary growth, you can, yeah, as long as you know what you're doing.
I think, you know, I looked within And I'm glad you talked about the fact that you started off as an exec, you went through to account manager. Within 3 to 4 years, I expect somebody who starts at entry level to be able to handle accounts on their own and have account manager. I should be able to double your salary within that time. And I've done that previously for my staff. When you talk about the glitz and glamour, you know, I own the business, I'm lucky, I get that side. But I get to watch everybody else do the hard work. And I will do it too, to be fair. But when you come into the industry, you're not going to see that. You're just going to see the tiredness of it. Spend 5 to 6 years, then you start seeing the other side of the industry as well, as you start to go to events and to parties as guests rather than as workers.
Yeah, that's when
but
you
you
hire
have
the
to
execs.
you have to climb that ladder first.
It was a lot lower then, but now you start in the media industry is much higher. But the reason why we stayed was because we went to the school of hard knocks.
Journalism is about passion. It's like, I don't think we talk about money.
We didn't.
But is that also, no offense, is that also a function of our age?
Okay.
I think our generation
I think
were
that's
less.
why
Yeah.
when
Less
people come to
expecting.
people
I
come to
agree.
work for me, I only know that a certain type will apply for work with me. It's a type that is more passionate about writing, about storytelling, about exposure. I mean, to be honest, I never really talked about money all my life. I've never been to my boss to say like, oh, why you only paying me like this or whatever, I'm doing so much or whatever. Because I kind of appreciate what the industry is and how much what kind of exposure I have, which is really something that no other industry can offer me really. Even if you're just talking about just watching the Reformasi movement grow or the financial crisis. Or just going for like press conferences with like central bank governor or minister of finance or whatever. It's not something that anyone gets to see. Because you get, of course, the news is one thing, but also you get to see how people in power, people of influence, like conduct themselves, how they work, how smart they are. And, all this is all really inspiring. Until today, so I do more management things, but I still enjoy writing a lot these days because. For me, it's really about always like getting my hands dirty. That's why I can never stand young staff who come and tell me things like, oh, can I send one of the younger ones to do like, let's say, pick up stuff or whatever. And I always say that, if I am nearby, I will pick it up because I don't want people to waste time going on. It's like, if I can do it, why can't anybody else? Although I may be like the management level now. If I can iron, like say we do cover shoot, if I can iron the dress or whatever, sometimes if I go there and then no one is there, right? Okay, and if I have to steam the dress, I will do it. And people come and ask me like, the editor also steaming. I said, well, no one else around.
Yeah, because that's the training that we had.
Yeah, but that's like...
That's the training that we had because when we started out, we did everything. Can you imagine the first elections that we did? We literally slept on tables because the studio and our office was in the third building. We literally ran with results for the readers to read, and these were stats, and we were running literally, and when we were not running, we were sleeping on the desk because these are the things that you get to see from the inside. My late dad used to make noise that I met the Prime Minister more than I met him. It was such an issue with Dad. So you see Prime Minister more than you come back and see me, which is true. But those are the privileges that we get when we're on the scene. And in your lifetime as a journalist, you will need to cover different kinds of news. You will need to cover death. I never understood what it meant by the smell of death until I covered the Highland Towers. You sit, no research prepares you for the magnitude of what you're going to see, what you're going to feel, what you're going to hear from people that have lost family members. I'm having goosebumps. But nothing prepares you for that. No amount of research will prepare you for the magnitude of covering those kinds of stories. That I will tell you now.
I look at PR. It's a very ever-changing industry. We've got publications that are shutting down on a weekly basis in Malaysia. Yet in Indonesia, it's growing. It's an interesting surprise, but we have to learn to adapt. As a company, we do a lot less activational now. We do a lot more strategic work and a lot more consulting work than we do actually publicity-based PR. The industry changes, but as with it, so do the people that come through. My business partner started in advertising, moved across to PR. No hassle with going any other direction with that. Just always be ready to embrace change. You know, both as an industry that you're part of, but also as a person, because the more static you are, you can't move. You find yourself you can't move. But if you're open about being able to experience something new, then you can move forward quite easily. What you hate today, in 10 years' time, you'll look back on like, I learned a lot. That helped me. So, you know, our perception of it changes over time as well. It was a fun experience for me. I enjoyed that. Obviously some lively discussion going on and some really interesting comments. It's kind of fun to come back to a university or a college campus and just sort of see what the next generation is bringing us. Anyway, see you next time.